folks. My name is Christine Gilbert, and I'm here to walk you all through some information about the Brookville Park data collection that you all will be a part of in the next week or so. So let's get started. So again, I want to welcome you all to the research team. You are all about to become research assistants on this research team. And so if this is maybe your first time being involved in research, I'm hopeful that you will have a really fun time. If this is not new to you, welcome back. But the purpose of the video today is to just talk through a little bit what you can expect in terms of the research that we're working on in Brookville Park, and then to kind of answer some basic logistic questions, things like that. A reminder, I'm Christine Gilbert, so you can just call me Christine. There's no need to call me doctor or professor. I'm an assistant professor at Stony Brook University on Long Island doing some research this summer in Brookville Park that you all will be helping me with. I'm what we call the primary investigator, or the PI, for this project, which means simply that I'm the person in charge, that everything reports kind of back to me in terms of the research. And so I'm going to be the one that's, maybe telling you what to do, but at all points along the process, I'm always very curious what my research assistants think about the research that's ongoing and as it's happening. And so it's very much, you should think of this relationship very much as a two-way form of communication instead of just being, right, like me telling you what to do and you saying yes. It's much more collaborative than that. So let's talk a little bit about what it is we're going to be doing in the park, in Brookville Park. Okay, so the research that I'm working on this summer that you all will be helping me with is focused on invasive species in the park. And so here we have a picture actually taken from Brookville Park in October of last year. And these, let me see if I can put my laser pointer on. Well, I suppose you can probably, oh, here we go, laser pointer, right, okay. I think you can see my mouse anyway. This right here is Phragmites, kind of this very tall creature. This plant right here with kind of the fuzzies on the top. So Phragmites is what we call an invasive species, which means two things. One, it typically means that it's not native to that area. In other words, it was introduced because an animal or a person or a vehicle of some type took that plant and brought it to a new location. And then it's also invasive because it basically what happens is it outcompetes all of the other species, meaning that when it grows, it tends to crowd out everything else that's in its area. And so what you're looking at here with this picture is actually on the other side of these Phragmites is water. Now you can't really see the water because the Phragmites grows so tall. It can grow anywhere between 8 to 10 feet tall. And so typically what it does, it will basically block your view of the water, which a lot of people who go to the park really don't like. And so what they're doing, in October of last year, the New York City Parks Department started this process of actually cutting down the Phragmites around certain parts of the lake. So again, this picture was taken in October of last year. So this was just from another part of the lake. You can kind of see over here where the Phragmites still are, where you can't see the water. And then they cut down all of the Phragmites here in this area. And so basically what's happening is over the next 10 years, the Parks Department is going to maintain the Phragmites through a series of so cutting down the Phragmites like this, as well as spraying pesticides and things like that. And so when this project is one that we've already actually started data collection for. And so we were there this summer. And so this actually picture right here is taken from the exact same location as this middle picture. And you can see how much the Phragmites has grown even since October of last year, right? This picture was taken in June of 2025. This was taken in October of 2024. So really only about, 8 months of growth. And you can see already how tall it is, right? It's starting to kind of block the view of the lake. And so, and this is something we'll probably talk about on the 18th when we do some training. But the reason for this maintenance is one is that park goers want to be able to see the water, right? But there's also concerns about safety. In other words, the Phragmites tends to grow so dense, and you can kind of see how much sheer foliage is on the ground here. People sometimes will worry about like people hiding in the bushes or jumping out at them, things like that. And so it's also a safety concern. And so I should also mention that, right, invasive species, I gave you that definition of it comes from another location, and also that it tends to outcompete everything else that's in the area. There are other invasive species in the park, but primarily what we're going to be focused on when we're doing data collection is the Phragmites, which is this, again, this tall stalk. Okay, so the research that we're doing, so I am actually not an ecologist. I'm not an, I don't do research about chemistry or biology, anything like that. I'm what's called a social scientist. And so I do research about people, basically. So I'm really interested in understanding how people, basically park goers, think about this ongoing maintenance in Brookville Park. In other words, do they like it? Do they know what's happening? Do they want more information? Things like this. And so the research that we're going to be doing is actually talking to people, so park goers, what they know about the maintenance, what they think about the maintenance, what questions they have, kind of things like this. Again, I'm really interested in the human component. It's not about the wetlands themselves or the Phragmites themselves. It's really about the people. Right. And specifically, I'm what's called a communication researcher, which means that I'm really interested in how people share information and messages. And so what we're going to be doing, what you all will be helping me do, is we're going to be asking park goers as they walk past us what their knowledge and experience is with Phragmites, so what they think about the plant, what they know about the plant, and then what they know and think about the maintenance. So what they think about basically this cutting, right, that's going on, or the spraying of pesticides, whether they like it more when the Phragmites is gone, if they like it when the Phragmites is there, things like that. Right. And then what we're going to do based out of this research is actually design a series of messages that we'll be able to use to basically communicate to park goers about what's happening in the maintenance, right? So we're basically trying to understand how people think about the Phragmites now so that we can design messages that help address maybe the concerns or the questions or the comments that they have, right? But we need to understand what people know about the Phragmites now in order to design messages that are actually right, effective at addressing those concerns and comments, things like that. So what are you all going to do in this instance, right? So again, I kind of mentioned this, but I'll give you a specific term for it. It's what we call intercept surveys. And so what we'll be doing in the park is actually just as people are walking past us, we will ask them if they'd like to participate in a 5-minute interview for a $5 gift card, basically, right? So people will walk by you and you say, hi, and we're conducting a research study. Would you be interested in participating? Which for some folks can be really stressful, which is why we do that kind of in-person training on the 18th so that you feel totally prepared for how to engage in these types of conversations. Everyone will also be working in groups. So this is not something that you're going to do by yourself. You're not going to be sent out somewhere in the park to work with yourself. Typically, we'll have anywhere between 3 to 5 people per group because people will be doing a variety of things. One person will be asking the interview questions, so they'll be fulfilling the role of interviewer. Some folks will be recording the interview. This is only audio transcription, I should also mention, and this is only if the participant consents. And so that will be one of the questions we ask people. Do you mind if we record this for transcription purposes? Something like that. We will also have a third person and potentially a fourth or a fifth person taking what we call field notes. And so this will just be something where you'll be writing down the participants' answers. If we don't have an audio recording of the interview, it will be particularly important for those field notes, but it's also useful even if we have the audio recording to have those field notes to kind of fill in the blanks in terms of what was happening, how did the person react, was there anything else that was happening that maybe influenced the results of the study. I should mention that Brookville Park is very close to JFK Airport, and so there's a lot of planes pretty regularly flying overhead that are very loud. So if as I've been telling you this, if this feels like it makes you really nervous to kind of do these intercept surveys, not a problem. Again, we'll be practicing on July 18th, so the Friday, July 18th in the park. So you'll actually have an opportunity to role play, to basically be the interviewer, to be the audio recorder, and to take field notes. And then at a certain point, if you would prefer to only do one of those roles, that's totally fine, right? It's perfectly fine to prefer to do one over the other. You'll also typically either be paired with myself or some of my graduate students that have done this research previously, so they are coming in with some more experience. Okay, this is kind of an overwhelming slide. So if you want to pause and read through them, you're more than welcome to. I just wanted folks to have a sense of what types of questions we would be asking, right? So they're very brief, right? What brings you to the park today? How often would you say you visit Brookville Park? It's these, these kind of questions in the beginning are really about just people's kind of attitudes about the park in general, unrelated really to the Phragmites or the maintenance, things like this. And then we kind of talk a little bit more about, Phragmites. What do you know about the maintenance? What information would you like to know about the maintenance? And then kind of, question number 10 is really this catch-all. Is there anything else you think I should know about Brookville Park that we haven't talked about yet? Right. Again, these are not questions you have to memorize. You will have a sheet of paper that you will be able to actually read as you're going along, right? There's no memorization here. Okay, so in terms of detail, that's really the most important pieces that I want you all to know. Again, we'll be doing more work in person when we can actually kind of practice, but this hopefully gives you a sense of the research that we're doing, the questions we're asking, things like that. So we're going to be in person on Friday, July 18th from 9:30 to 12 doing data collection training. And then actually, I would anticipate that the training will probably take anywhere from, 2 hours, or I would say maybe 90 minutes to 2 hours. And then if we have any extra time left over, we'll do some actual data collection so people can kind of see what it's like. And then we're going to do data collection 1 week later on July 25th, and then also on Wednesday, August 6th. So those are going to be the other days that we'll be doing data collection in Brookville Park. I want to make sure folks know that it's important to wear comfortable clothes, right? This is not something you have to be formal or wear anything, particular. I want you to be comfortable. I should also mention if the heat is really bad and or it's raining, right, we will cancel those data collections. We're using paper to collect data, and so it doesn't really make sense to be out in the rain, but so I would encourage you, bring sunscreen, water, snacks, lunch. Make sure you have everything you need to be outside for a couple of hours. Now, if you do have any questions or concerns, you can always contact me, christine.gilbert.1@stonybrook.edu, or this is my work phone number. You're more than welcome to call me. But again, this is not to make anyone feel like they're, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I've never done research before. That's okay. This was very much, one of my first experiences doing research was this type of kind of intercept survey data collection. And I promise you will find as you go through it and as you experience it, that it's not nearly as bad as you think. So I'm looking forward to meeting everyone on July 18th. And again, if any questions or things pop up, please feel free to reach out. Thank you so much.